All right. Matilda Floormat writes in and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, do trees grow on roads? Do trees grow on roads? Well, Matilda, what do you think? You know, people, they drive off roads to hit trees, so, you know, why waste time growing right on the road? Okay, Barry Leaky Bucket writes in and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, how far does that zoom lens zoom? Well, Barry, you know what? It'll zoom several miles. But I don't do it that far because then you wouldn't hear my voice and you wouldn't know what the heck I'm talking about. I mean, I zoom 70 millimeters and you still don't know what I'm talking about. So think about that. Thanks for writing in. Funkel Birkensteimer writes in and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, are there lazy trees like there are lazy people? Well, that's a good question, yeah. Right there, who do you think the lazy tree is there? Sure there are. Oh yeah, look at this. Who do you think is the tree in the unemployment line here? Yeah, sorry to say, trees act much like humans in many ways. Thanks for the question, it's a good question. Alright, we have another email here. Martha Ratface, she writes in and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, do you think trees drink beer? Well, Martha, oh yeah. Yeah, I would say they do. At least this one here has been nipping at it just a little bit, alright? Thanks for the question, and good timing. Alright, Mary Minestrone Soup Head writes in and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, do some trees try to take on the appearance of like certain animals and stuff in the animal kingdom, like because they're not happy being a tree? Yeah, Mary, they do, and that's a good question. This tree wanted to be a pig, and people started laughing at it and carving stuff into it, and so it just kind of quit. But you can kind of see what it was after. So yeah, some trees aren't happy being trees, but whatever. Thanks for the question, Mary. All right, Sam Shadow Shack writes and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, do some trees go streaking like kids used to do back in the 70s? Well, Sam, you know, that's a good question. In fact, here's a tree that has no clothes on right now, and it's streaking and having a good time. You can't tell, but it's running, it's going as fast as it can. And that's the problem with trees. It'll take them like years to get redressed, and by that time they'll be locked up in jail, you know. So if you ever see a tree like this in jail, you'll know what happened. All right, Ziffy Winglenut writes in and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, can certain dead trees be repurposed into something else? Well, Ziff, baby, not always. I mean, you know, some trees can, but other trees are pretty much out of luck. I mean, this tree, you might get a toothpick out of it or a cane or something like that. But yeah, good thinking, Ziffy. I like your repurposing attitude. Okay, I have an email here from Hoover Maneuver. He says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, where do bridges come from? Well, Hoove, you know, the San Francisco Bridge actually was built back in the 1930s, and it used over 600,000 million tons of steel and steel cable, concrete. It was just an amazing thing. I mean, it's one of the best bridges ever. But good question, Hoovie. Hang in there. All right, thanks. Bye. All right, Michael Motterberry writes in, emails in, and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, do trees ever get thirsty and want to take a drink of water? Well, Michael, What do you think? I mean, yeah, they get thirsty, you know, so some of them can't wait, so they dive right in. It's okay. You know, other trees, they try to be more controlled and wait a longer time, and you can see what happened to them, you know. They should have just jumped in and had some fun. It's kind of like tree swimming, you know, that happens too. Thanks for the question, Michael. All right, Billy Mack writes in and says, Dear Joe, the tree doctor, can trees fall in love and actually get married? Well, Billy Mack, that's a really good question. In fact, yes, they can. Right here, we have a tree. This is actually a tree wedding happening right now as we speak. And yes, you may kiss the bride. But their weddings take like years, you know, so if you have other stuff to go to, I would suggest not messing around at a tree wedding. But that's a good question. Thank you. All right, Dave Dunderberry writes in and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, can trees get cut and cry? Well, Dave, you know, that's a good question. Can trees get cut and dry and cry? Yeah, they can. Look at this. There's a good example. That tree's crying. That tree's crying. This tree's crying sideways. It's really confused. Yeah, so good question. Thank you for writing in. I mean, if somebody chopped into you, what would you do, you know? All right. Okay, we need to wrap it up here pretty quick. Couple more. Charlie Cement says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, do trees like to fight and get in battles with each other? Well, no, Charlie. Trees aren't, you know, they're not made to fight or do anything like that. I mean, why would they? But that's an interesting perspective. I mean, you know, I don't think there's like a tree boxing channel or anything on TV. But yeah, good idea anyway. Good question, thanks. All right, Joe the Tree Doctor. Martha Winger writes and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, how can you tell if a nice looking tree is paranoid or not? Well, usually you can't, Martha. I mean, it's a good question, but, you know, some of them hide it really well. Other ones, they're little telltale signs that, you know, that they're a little bit freaked out and clawing on for dear life. But yeah, thanks for the question. All right, Joe the Tree Doctor here. We showed up today. We were gonna put in the dual stage multicolored bird feeder light in his tree. They were on back order, but anyway, now what they have is a triple stage flashing multicolored bird feeder light, and it's like another $2,400. But so I need to check out what was it, Joe Badger of Tractor Supply or whatever it was. But so we're gonna check it out and either put the dual stage or triple stage in. But once we get it done, we'll have a demonstration and display how cool it is. All right, so thanks for tuning in to Joe the Tree Doctor. All right, hi, Joe the Tree Doctor here. I just wanted to do an update. A couple years ago, we had a 911 call in this tree, and the problem is it had a big cavity, you know, right in the middle there. And so I have today a couple bags of cement. So what we're going to do is fill in this cavity, and we'll put some in here too. And then we'll get a train, well, we might need a train. We'll have to get a crane to straighten this up more because it's leaning worse than ever. And so yeah, it's taking a while, but we're gonna get this tree fixed up, and it'll look good as new when we're done. All right, Henry Wankel Motormouth writes and says, Dear Joe the Tree Doctor, why does it sound like you're always out of breath? How old are you? Well, Henry, I'm older than you think, so just shut up. And, oh, the other part of his question is, why do trees sometimes grow sideways out of other trees? Well, Henry, you know what? I'm not even going to answer your stupid question, you know? Alright, anyway, thanks again for tuning in. And stay tuned to this channel for some other cool stuff. Alright, thanks. Bye.